Welcome to Game Talk Radio. Your hosts, Greg and Jen, bringing you their take on this week's hottest gaming news.
Welcome, everyone, back to Game Talk Radio. I'm Greg.
I'm Jen. I'm laughing because right before Greg usually hits record, he puts his hand in the air and just like a maestro preparing.
It's like I'm directing my symphony, conducting my symphony.
Yes.
And I'm getting ready to drop it.
Like it's hot.
Like it's lukewarm.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, back to Game Talk Radio. I'm Greg.
I'm Jen. We already said that.
This is episode 16.
Sweet 16.
And, but I get a flow. And you killed my flow again.
Sorry, I did it again.
I got a flow. Hello, everyone. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do it again. So, episode 16, and the theme of today, because, the theme thing kind of worked last time.
It did.
And as I start to put these on YouTube, I want to have something in the title besides
episode 16.
EP 16 GTR Game Talk Radio. Woo!
Oh yeah, we're on YouTube now.
So we're on YouTube now, which I'm sure hopefully more people get to see. Most people I've talked to are much happier listening to it on YouTube.
Weird.
Yeah, I just SoundCloud a lot of times you need a separate app for.
Yeah, but it's free. It's a free app.
True, but it's just one more thing to do. Everyone's on YouTube already. Plus, it's easy to subscribe to us, and it's easier to get notifications and updates and stuff.
I suppose.
So, anywho, so the theme of this week's podcast is everything old is new again.
Yes.
Speaking, most of our stories this week are updates to old stories we've done before. So, for instance, we're starting off talking about the story we talked about last week.
Yes, which is the Super Nintendo Entertainment System games going missing, $10,000 worth, sometime or somewhere in New Jersey.
Right. So if you remember last week, we were talking about this. So quick recap. German guy has a whole bunch of European Super Nintendo games. Guy in the US wants to archive originals. This guy sends him 100. He sends it back, no problem. Guy sends the next 100 that are apparently worth $10,000. Gets lost in the mail.
Yes.
The guy who they were being sent to, Bayou, he received a letter from the post office with the address label that was ripped off in the box and said, "Hey, here's your label. We don't know where your package is. Sorry, tough luck." So then he went on a tirade. He went crazy trying to message people, try to call people, figure out what's going on. There was no news. And then apparently, because the stories were getting so much traction, somebody higher up the chain actually was reading the articles and went out of his way to try to figure it out. So, and I don't know how this works, but my guess would be that the post office, when something like that happens, clearly the box is still there.
Right.
They don't just throw the box away.
No.
So that box that no longer has any information about where it's supposed to go, I would assume goes to some center somewhere and then gets inspected, finds out what it is, and then they wait for a complaint to come through, basically saying what they're missing and the dimensions of the box and stuff like that.
And that also, if you've ever mailed anything, any large packages, they do like to put several barcodes, several stickers. Amazon is the perfect example. They usually have a barcode on the top label with your address, but then a barcode usually somewhere else.
Right, like another identifying marker.
Exactly.
It may not get you to your house, but they could say, hey, here's the scan number on the back, find it, and you'd be okay.
Right. So
sure.
I would agree. I think that there's some sort of either area within that sorting facility where it just stays until somebody claims it or makes a complaint. But there were pictures posted on the updated article where there it is. It was actually 2 boxes inside of a larger box, it seems.
Okay.
And was covered with packing tape and everything like that. So I don't know if the 2 boxes were meant to be shipped separately or for whatever reason
it's probably just good packing material. Like you probably put 50 in a box and each box was like perfect. So yeah, that's good news, obviously. So he's saying that he had a case, and on February 21st he got an email saying that the package had been located. So he contacted his rep, and the rep said the search had failed and the notification was errant. So then he was like, oh, okay, whatever. So then the rep later called him in the day advising that someone in Atlanta, Georgia, the mail recovery center in Atlanta, Georgia, had just located the package.
See, now that makes me think like what you were saying was that they have all these mislabeled or unlabeled packages that get sent to a larger facility somewhere. But how they knew that was his with no identifying markers whatsoever, unless Bayou was able to get in contact with Smart Human, who was the the person in Germany and say, what did you wrap it in? What did it look like? Did you take pictures? And then possibly forward those pictures on to more easily locate it.
Yeah, well, he actually says here that because he had taken pictures of the other box that was sent, this box was sent almost the exact same way, so he was able to get the exact dimensions and take lots of pictures.
That's good.
So that's good. So that was good on his part.
So that's something for us all to keep in mind if in an event, if in the future you need to send something through the USPS or even through FedEx or UPS or anything like that, to take pictures of your packages.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good idea whenever you're sending something. If you value that at $10,000,
yes,
you take a bunch of pictures.
Yeah.
And you know what you do, and you have fail safes. Like what he should have done is there should have been another letter inside the box with the address, where to ship it to. If the label gets ripped off, like all these little things, like the 2 boxes inside should have also had addresses. Like these packages are meant to be part of one bigger package going here.
Mhm.
Like obviously not everyone's gonna think of that the first time. You gotta almost get burned a little bit to be able to think of that stuff. But so that's good. I still feel like it's a little fishy because when we reported this story originally,
we thought maybe that.
Well, we said originally. Remember, we had said that the guy wasn't asking for handouts. He was going to pay out of his own money slowly but surely, right?
Well, what he had said was that he wanted to pay back Smart Human, and he wasn't trying to solicit. He did receive over $1,000 via PayPal, and a little over $100 via whatever Patreon is.
So Patreon is like a subscription service. So imagine like we had a Patreon page. People can pay you a certain amount per month, basically, to subscribe to you. So they could say they want to pay 50 cents a month.
Mm-hmm.
But you set up tiers. So like you could say, if you pay us $5 a month, every month we'll send you a letter in the mail.
Oh, I see.
And for $20 a month, like actually Implant Games, there's a local guy, Chris, who does a great podcast called Implant Games. His podcast, he has Patreon, and he does like beat sprites for people that pay a certain amount every month. So he just like ships them out and stuff. So it's kind of a cool idea.
Do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, is it a little fishy? Maybe, but how are you gonna prove it? I mean, he could have realized, oh crap, this has gotten so much traction. I need to not.
Well, I don't necessarily. I'm not saying it's fishy because I think something was like he stole them, but I think originally he said he wasn't going to ask for donations and money, but then he was using the opportunity to say, but I have Patreon, and it's almost like he was using it as a way to like get support from people, and it felt like to me when I was reading his reaction to it about, well, I have Patreon and you can PayPal me if you want to help out. I just was kind of like, okay, this sounds terrible, but I'm just gonna say it. How dare he? I kind of feel like, how dare he? It's not his fault, right?
No, right.
But I just feel like, who is he to ask his fans and people who believe in the project to kind of take on that responsibility? It was his responsibility, and it was Smart Human's responsibility. I get really, like, what do I preach on here all the time, guys? I always preach personal responsibility. Well, and I'm sick of, like even crowdfunding in general, like Kickstarter and stuff, while I play along with some, I also feel like that's almost something like a lot of developers go on Kickstarter and they want us to take all the risk. We're the customer. Like, why are we, like we're the fans of Bayou and his project. Why is it, I mean, now I'm not saying that people aren't going to want to come out and help because that would make them feel good, and I'm okay with that. But it's almost like, I hate when people, it's like when a cop pulls you over for speeding and he goes, you were going 85 and a 55, but I bumped it down to 75, so I got you less of a ticket. I did that for you. It's like, well, is it much of a favor if you're rubbing it in my face that you did me a favor?
Well, here's the thing.
It just feels disingenuous to me.
I think people were probably not soliciting him, but offering, hey, this really sucks. I want to give you some money to help offset what you have to pay back.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason he put it on there was to save himself from having to answer email after email after post after
then that's
post.
Fair. I guess I'm looking at the worst.
Hey, if you really want to give me money, give me it to PayPal, give me it to Patreon, but I'm not looking for it. But sometimes people just want to help. Mm-hmm. Where if I was following this project from the start or even shortly after he began, and I read that, and I was totally vested and invested in this sort of project, I probably would have said, hey, let me throw $20 or whatever your way to help offset that, because man, that really sucks.
Yeah.
Now, what I hope is that he gives that money back.
Well, I would sure hope so.
That would be more fishy.
And even if he does, though, say
Or
he
I mean,
got,
if he didn't, that would be more fishy.
well, what if he got like 15? Let's say he got 100 new Patreon followers from the whole ordeal, and now they're each paying him their $5 a month. He's just making, or $5 a month. So now he's making $5 a month off people that, like I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just, the whole thing just feels off to me, and it just kind of is off-putting. I don't know. It's just weird.
Well, I think the best thing is they found the games, and he can continue with this project.
Well, I don't think he's going to continue with the project still. At least not shipping them from that guy. Like, he's going to
Yeah.
continue the project by buying them himself and stuff like that. And I guess at least he got 200 of the games out of the way. So now he can
Exactly.
work on the other 600 on his own or whatever
It might
is.
take him a little longer than he wanted, and he may still work with Smart Human. He may still do the exchange, but just in a more responsible way.
Yeah.
And honestly, the fact that the label got ripped off, that could happen to any package.
Absolutely.
It just happened to happen to $10,000 worth of video games. But think about, it's kind of like the odds of you being in a plane crash. When you compare how many people fly every single minute of every single day and how many of those actually there are problems that cause a plane crash, you're safer flying than you are driving in your own car.
Yeah, that still doesn't make me feel better.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's true.
It is. I'm not disputing the facts.
But
I'm just,
with the U.S. Postal Service gets such a bad rap because all we hear about are when things go wrong.
you don't hear about the 10,000 successful packages that deliver every day in the state.
Exactly, and that's
True.
the thing that really bothers me, especially with the service industry like the U.S. Postal Service. They're a dying industry right now because people are, using a lot of FedEx and UPS and all that those kind of companies. But they're trying to keep up, and we just hear about the bad stuff that
Right.
happens. But, I get 3 letters in the mail every other day, and I don't complain about that
Yeah.
because I get the letters.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have any complaints when your mail is successfully delivered 364 days a year,
Right.
and not on that last day or whatever. So, but yeah. So I mean, I guess all's well that ends well.
Yeah.
I guess it's a positive follow up. It's not like some of the other things. So now the next follow up then from a previous story we have is a few months ago we were talking about a game development company called Digital Homicide, and they were suing
Yes.
a YouTuber named Jim Sterling. That's his YouTube name. And they were suing him. They were blaming him for things like harassment and saying that he was liable for damaging their company for the tune of like $10 million
Yeah.
because he basically played their awful game and said it was awful.
Well, yeah, various
now
counts
here
of
comes a lawsuit.
libel, slander, assault. It was super high profile, and it was after Jim Sterling criticized their first-person shooter game called Slaughter Grounds.
Yeah, and we talked about it, but like to touch back on it, basically he played it. It wasn't even a review. He just did like a preview or something of it. Like he played it.
He played it, and then he was like, "Oh,
And he was
this
making
thing
fun
is
of it the whole
terrible."
time. And it was funny because you know what he is? He's a comedian for your entertainment on the internet. Okay, so it's funny. So then though, like the guys from Digital Homicide, like the main guy Romine, he takes Jim Sterling's video, then like does almost like, I guess you call it a reaction video, but he like dubs over Jim Sterling's video review and then does his own commentary about how stupid and annoying Jim Sterling is.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of funny. Jim Sterling, being the hilarious guy that he is, he thinks it's funny. And then I think he did another video, and then they started going back and forth. And then there's this really, I don't know if I ever played that for you.
Yeah,
there
it's
was
like this cringy phone call.
The cringy phone call. Basically, Jim set up a Skype call with him, and this guy basically, he seems like he's just really upset at Sterling for crapping on his game, and it's this really cringy, like, hey man, you make money on YouTube just ripping off other people's work and blah blah, and it was just really, it was really cringy. Honestly, it was. But anyway, so then after all that, this guy officially takes him to court. And it doesn't get thrown out. Like, it legitimately is going to go to court. Like, they're scheduled to go to court, which just seems crazy that somebody on the YouTube could play something and go, my opinion is that this game sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And just because he's got thousands of people that listen to him means he can't say that? it really starts to get a little sketchy, right? So anyway, goes to court. The follow-up, though, is another positive one because it's been dismissed with prejudice.
Right. And if anybody doesn't know, a case dismissed with prejudice is over and done with once and for all and can't be brought back to court. That's according to IllinoisLegalAid.org's website. A case dismissed without prejudice means exactly the opposite, so it's not dismissed forever, and the person whose case it is can try again. So basically, this is the last we're going to hear about this lawsuit.
Yes, and so this is my favorite part about the story. So this is Jim Sterling commenting on it. He says, "For those curious about this resolution, I was not a direct part of the communication between Romine and my lawyer, but as I understand it, the agreement to drop the suit with prejudice was the result of Hartman, that's his lawyer, his enviable reasoning ability. The plaintiff agreed to drop his case after my lawyer explained exactly what would happen if this went to court and how we would respond." So that to me, end quote. So that to me tells me that basically the lawyer said, look, we go to court and you lose, we're gonna beat you this way, and then we're gonna sue you backwards, and you're gonna have to pay all the court costs at a minimum.
Yep.
And so I think he looked at all that stuff, and the guy like, you know what? I don't have a case. Jim Sterling found a lawyer that was competent.
Yes.
And dare I say, excelling at his job, and he basically just put the spurs to him and said, "Here's the deal," and that was it. So another good one. It goes back to, obviously there's a lot of confusion about the idea of the First Amendment, and the First Amendment free speech allows you to say what you want without being persecuted by the government. It does not mean you can say whatever you want, as we touched upon last week with the PewDiePie thing. It doesn't mean you can say whatever you want without any consequences from anyone. Any private entity can say, I don't want to do business with you based on the things you say. That's totally normal and that's totally acceptable. It was the same thing like when the Duck Dynasty guys were getting razzed for things they said, and people were like, it's free, you can't cancel their show, it's free speech. They absolutely can cancel their show.
They can.
They're a private company, so I mean, you want to try to tell a private company that they can't do what they want to do?
It's got to be like within contractual, like there's probably some sort of thing within their contract that says at any point they can deem them,
it's some sort of like nobility clause, basically.
Yeah,
where they have a clause that they can choose if anything offensive is said that they can terminate the contract.
Right. Exactly. So I agree with you. Like they can drop them if they're willing to either go against the contractual obligations or be able to incur the penalties of terminating that contract.
And it's totally up to that company. It's really up to them. And if they terminate the contract without due reason, then that person can sue them.
Exactly.
And that's how it works in
America,
I
don't think
because people just sue each other all the time. Right? That's all we do.
I don't think the Duck Dynasty people ever did sue.
They didn't get canceled either. I mean, the show, I'm pretty sure they didn't get taken out.
Why is that show still on?
Why people watch it, I don't know.
It's funny, though, because they didn't always look that way, meaning, like, the long beards with the whatever. And like, if you look at pictures from them, like, maybe 6, even as, close as, like, 4 to 5 years ago, they're all, like, clean shaven. Like, they look completely different. So it was an image. It was a persona they were trying to emulate, which, to me, is just... Ugh, all right.
Well, and just like how Jim Sterling was able to say what he wanted to, I believe those guys should be able to say what they want to. But you have to understand, again, personal responsibility. I can say whatever I want in my store. I can say whatever I want to an extent. I can say whatever I want. But that doesn't mean that the customers in my store aren't going to hear what I say and go, yikes, I don't want to shop there anymore.
Right. And I've actually not shopped at certain stores because of how I felt when I was in there.
Sure.
Like, usually, like, made to feel really uncomfortable, or if somebody, like, pushy salespeople was like, dude, I'm in a clothing store. Please leave me alone to try on clothes. You don't need to help me.
You don't need to come into the changing room with me. I can get this underwear on myself, thank you, sir.
Now, if I was, like, a different person, maybe that would be what they wanted. That isn't what I want. And that's my choice as a customer. So you're totally right.
Absolutely.
It's the customer who says, you know what? I heard what this guy said. I'm going to take it at face value, and I'm going to choose not to shop there anymore.
And it's why you don't talk about very hot topics and like hot issues in the store. Like, especially about politics, because everyone has their own opinions on
Oh,
politics.
for sure.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, I have my own views that I'm very strong about too. But what it comes down to is I'm a company, I'm a store trying to be a successful company. When I'm there, I'm a representative of that company. I'm not a representative of myself. And that doesn't mean, and I've had people in the store make racist comments before, and I've shut them down.
Good.
There are certain points I will step out of that. I'm not always trying to be like this wishy-washy middleman. But when it comes to like giving political opinions on things, a lot of times that sort of stuff, to me, it doesn't have anything to do with the business. The business should always
Sure.
be kept separate from that.
Mhm.
It's like if someone on your friends list didn't like what you said on Facebook, and then they went to the Facebook page and they gave me a 1-star review because they're like, "Oh, I'm just mad at Greg. I don't want to do it." Like that's never happened to me, but that would really frustrate me because then I start to feel like then I can't say what I want to say, and
Mhm.
it should never affect your business. But if it happens at your business, you're associating those comments with the business itself. If I'm the owner and I'm there every day, and I say these things, they're associating those things with the business. It's just how it
Sure.
goes. So again, you say things, and they have the right to say whatever they want. They just have to understand that they have to take responsibility for whatever consequences that follows. And I guess to a point, Jim had to understand that there could be consequences when he's ripping on a game now. That those people might try to come after him for it. And there are he was tweeted at a couple times, and I'm pretty sure it was people just trolling him. But I was reading this Twitter after he announced this the first time. There were some tweets that he was getting that were saying things like that these people that were tweeting at him were from certain other companies, and that even if they don't think they can win, they're going to start bringing up lawsuits against him just to mentally tax him and to
Oh
stress
my
him
gosh.
out and to make him think twice before knocking bad games.
And that's kind of what I was gonna say was that I can't even imagine how much time and energy and money went into this whole farce of a lawsuit that
Yeah,
Digital Homicide had. It's just I can't even imagine. And he may second guess, like you said, he may second guess or question the next sort of negative thing he posts because he doesn't want to have to go through
yeah.
that again.
I
I know
mean,
that I wouldn't.
luckily, that's just not his style.
Well,
Like,
let's hope
you know,
not.
I don't know him personally, obviously, but like just watching his videos, like he prefers the comedy, and he prefers all that stuff over the being right. Now it did say though that both Sterling and Romine were left to pay their own legal costs, so it is costing him money. Whatever
Yeah.
this lawyer cost him, I mean, that's all out of his own pocket.
Sounds like a really good lawyer, which means he's a really
Yeah,
expensive
but
lawyer.
and I don't know if this is the same guy, but there's a guy on Reddit that you can tag, and he like specializes in video game law. So he
Wow.
works on like special projects, like say someone had some of their ideas stolen by another game company, and a lot of times he does
Oh.
pro bono work too. I don't know if it's this guy, and I don't know if he would do that for Jim, but basically that guy seems pretty great. He's always around Reddit. People tag him all the time. It's great.
He might be a fan too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Especially if he's
Absolutely.
a video game kind of guy.
Well, I think he was just a lawyer, and then he helped a few people out with a few things, and
And
then
he's
all
like,
of a sudden
"I'm
he got
pretty good."
tagged as the video game lawyer, and he's like, "Hey, I'll take that."
I will.
But that's
I
not a bad way to specialize. I mean, look at the way the world's going. Look at all the people that
Mhm.
do Twitch streaming and videos and stuff like this. I mean, there's plenty of work for them.
Well, it's just like anything else that's like you said, specialization
Yeah.
of that.
But yeah,
Well,
but all well that ends well again.
speaking of how do I want to phrase this? Well, going back to video game law, copyright infringement.
Mhm.
One of the things that we were really excited to do.
This story hurts. This cuts deep.
This cuts
This
real deep.
hurts.
One of the things you can do while in Tokyo, which we are going to go in April,
In a month, basically.
is a little company called Maricar. And if you go to their website, maricar.jp, it is a company that okay, you dress up like your characters from the Mario universe and you ride around in go-karts in downtown Tokyo.
Yes. Yes. A million times yes. It sounds so amazing. I know I have a friend who did it last year.
And we saw somebody's GoPro.
Yeah, they actually lend you the camera to record the whole thing
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
And so, you wear the mask, you just like Yoshi, you just like Bowser, you just like Mario, Luigi, Princess, all that kind of junk. Well, Nintendo got wind of it and has filed a lawsuit against Maricar. And according to this article on Kotaku, there's a couple different go-karting businesses in Tokyo that are street legal. Akiba Kart is another one, or Clickar, I think is how you pronounce that other one, which is in Shibuya, but they're suing Maricar over copyright infringements, as well as for allegedly violating the country's Unfair Competition Prevention Act. Now, I'm not a specialized lawyer in Japanese law, but I call shenanigans on this.
So are you calling shenanigans on Nintendo filing it, or are you calling shenanigans on the company for doing it?
On Nintendo suing them.
I have to tell you, this is the most blatant and obvious copyright infringement I've ever seen.
I know it's copyright infringement. I'm not
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I think it's silly for them to sue them. Why not instead work with them? Because it's obvious that they're getting a lot of business. I've seen so many people.
The story, and the news is spreading about it. Like Kotaku had an article a few months ago, and other places were spreading the articles. Yeah.
And it's all positive stuff. So why can't, instead of suing them, why can't they work out a deal?
Why couldn't they license it or something? You know,
Yeah.
like pay Nintendo a fee, get official costumes.
I mean, they have pretty good costumes, but it's just, we were really excited to do this, and now it looks like we're not going to be able to. We, in fact, just maybe a couple days before this article in Kotaku came out, had purchased our international driving licenses.
Yep. Oh boy, it's really unfortunate. I mean, it's not like it was that expensive, and now maybe if we want to, we could rent a car.
Good Lord, I do not want to drive a car in Tokyo.
I kind of want to.
No. You can't read any of the signs.
I don't need to read. I'm a naturally good driver. I was born to drive. Come on.
Geez.
But anyway, so yeah, I mean, this is just a little story we want to touch on, but it hit us close to home because, well, quite frankly, we were really excited to do this, and now
it looks like we're not gonna.
But the cool thing is we can still do it, just not the Mario themed one. Like there are still other go-karting to do around, which I think would still be fun to do. So it's still gonna be fun. We're still gonna do it.
We're still gonna do it.
And who knows? These guys will probably still be doing it while they're trying to figure it out. Who knows? Maybe the company will shut down. I don't know. But whatever happens, we're gonna go-karting in Tokyo. That's what I do know.
Yes.
Well, maybe I will. I don't know. Maybe everyone else will.
I want to do the night driving because it just, with Tokyo all lit up and everything, it's beautiful.
I think it'd be beautiful.
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
I think it'd be super cool because if I could drive go-karts in like Chicago at night or New York City, I think that'd be awesome. Like Times Square driving go-karts around. Oh, man, that'd be great.
But so that hit us a little hard. The whole go-karting in Tokyo.
Yeah. And it's such a neat idea. Like, look up Maricar, Maricar, on like YouTube and watch some of the videos. It's just hilarious. Awesome.
It just looks like a lot of fun.
But
okay.
So then obviously that was just a quick story. That had nothing to do really with the theme, I guess.
No, it didn't. Well,
but I guess we did talk about doing that before, so we're kind of it's a developing story.
There you go.
About
TBD.
us.
Well, last week we talked about.
Was it last week? Was it 2 weeks ago?
It might have. I don't know.
It was 2 weeks ago because I actually got a lot of Twitter play on this one.
Did you?
Yeah, I went on a Twitter rant. Some would call it.
Well, again, somebody at GameStop is listening to us. Somebody in the higher up muckety muck, big mugwump kind of thing.
I think they've been listening to me ever since I left. Like they're like, this Greg guy really knows what he's doing. We can't lose him, so we'll bug his house. We'll listen to his podcast, and we'll make sure that everything this guy touches turns to gold, clearly. And he's really got everything together.
Well, we reported on the fact that GameStop had this controversial program within their company called the Circle of Life, which really kind of touts the importance of, you called it what, the 4 pillars?
Yeah, so the 4 pillars is actually what it was called at one time. So but it makes sense. So yeah, there's 4 pillars of what the Circle of Life is.
So that includes, I wrote this down so I would remember, so I would sound really smart. Subscriptions
to Game Informer.
To Game Informer.
To be specific.
Sorry.
Yep.
Used game sales, pre-orders for games, and trade-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we have found is that it's changing this week, I think? Next week?
Yeah, so apparently, I believe this week all the district managers were at a meeting in Texas. Like every year the district managers have like a week-long training meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they were there and they discussed this, that they wanted to roll it out starting tomorrow, which if you're listening to it on Monday, it's today. But for us, we're recording on Sunday, so it's tomorrow.
Yes.
And so they talked about it, and a lot of district managers, I guess, had a conference call on Friday with their stores, but most district managers hold their conference calls on Mondays. So on Monday is typically when they're going to roll all this stuff out. So
okay. They're adjusting those 4 metrics and including an additional pillar.
Yeah, so originally, I guess the first big thing is that they're saying they're no longer gonna at a corporate level track individual employee performance.
Yes.
So that way you won't have the infighting where, say, you were helping a customer on the sales floor, and they're like, you talk to about all these games and stuff, and then like, okay, cool, thanks, and they're looking around for a bit. You go on break, you come back, and oh, they went to the register and pre-ordered 4 games.
Yeah, somebody
Well,
poached your.
yeah, Joe Schmo at the register just got credit for 4 pre-orders that you spent 20 minutes talking to. But
Mhm.
again, it shouldn't matter. Competition between stores to do better, I understand, but driving competition between your own employees, it works to an extent, but you breed a culture of dangling the carrot. And
Mhm.
so you breed this culture of competitive nature where everyone has to win. And if you're not winning, then you're not happy. And the only way to stay good is to offer incentives like, well, hey, the top employee this week, I'm going to give him a $10 gift card to the store. Like that's what a store manager would say.
Yeah.
GameStop corporate's not going to do that, but how does a manager motivate his people? You can't give them spiffs like extra pay for doing well. You can sometimes run contests. Like I would do that if, say, they gave me a free copy of a game. I would like say, hey, if anybody wants this game, I'll tell you what, we'll do a month contest. Best numbers at the end of the month gets the game,
Right.
or
And
something like that.
It's more incentivized as opposed
Right.
to seeing your name on a list and there's 20 people that you've never met ahead of you. Because
Yes.
they're all from different stores.
Well, exactly. And then giving you a number, it's like, oh, out of the 20,000 employees, you were number 10,005. You're like, well, that's not too bad. That's 50%.
Like,
That's pretty
okay,
good. And
how
they're like,
am I
well,
supposed to understand what that means?
So that's the first big change, I guess. And then the second big change, like you were saying, is they're
Mhm.
adding a 5th pillar, which doesn't make any sense. So they're adding a 5th arrow in the circle of life.
A spoke in the wheel.
A new spoke in the circle
They
of
should make
the
it
wheel of life.
the hub. It's a hub where GameStop is the hub, and then it has the spokes.
And so this is directly going about what happened with the story that we reported on. And the story that we had reported on originally was that basically stores were telling, some stores, not all stores, some stores were telling customers they didn't have new copies of the game.
And only used games.
Only had used, so that they had a better chance of selling a subscription, and they would get their used sales comp higher. So they felt like they had to do that in order to cheat the system, to game the system.
Yeah.
So apparently now they're adding new sales to that pillar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big step, obviously, for them, because now they're counting new sales as an important part of the thing. Now, to be fair, I know GameStop well enough to know they weight those things differently. Like when we had rankings for our reviews and for our store performance at the end of the year, like our ranking, things were weighed differently. So reservations would be weighed the most, and subscription would be weighed up there. Your used sales comp would be a little bit less, trade-ins would be a little bit less than that. So they could make it where new game sales are weighted at 5% of the equation, and then everything else is weighted at its equal 20% or whatever to get you up there.
So they're going in the right direction, obviously, because they're listening to what people are saying and they don't like the negative press.
Right.
So they're at least attempting to get a little bit of love back by saying, hey, we're going to get rid of we value what you were saying and we're adjusting our program so that it doesn't look like, GameStop employees want to kill themselves at the end of the day.
I mean, it's them trying to save face a little bit, obviously, and I think they've been losing ground in the video game market for quite some time. I mean, if you look at Best Buy, they have the Gamers Club Unlocked program, which if you spend $30 for 2 years, you get 20% off all new games you buy.
Mm-hmm.
So I've saved easily probably $1,000 in a year off of that program.
Sure.
Amazon is now matching that essentially. And if you have Amazon Prime and you buy a game in the first 2 weeks it's out, you get 20% off it brand new.
No way.
It's crazy.
What?
Why would anyone ever buy a new game at GameStop anymore? There's just no point.
That's true.
There really is no point. And
well,
so
there's
they're
the
slipping.
people aspect.
Well, and that's why people go there. They go there for the staff and they go there for everything else. That the staff offers. Like they want to go and meet the nice people and they want to chat with people about games, but they've been slipping. They've been losing ground on, I think, the game stuff for quite a while. And obviously they do trade-ins, which Best Buy and Amazon have started, but still can't do on a like a massively global level like GameStop does. So that's really where their advantage still kind of lies. But it's interesting to see them shift. I love the fact that Kotaku kind of busted this story wide open,
Mm-hmm.
and that somehow some medium-sized video game blog, not trashing Kotaku, but they're just, they're not like the biggest ones around, and they were able to crack a story that made $1 billion company change policies, and that's awesome.
Well, here's what I don't get. I mean, how long would you say this whole Circle of Life program? I know that you said that it was called something else, but how long has this been actually a part of GameStop?
Well, ever since I've been there, the stores have been ranked. So when I started there in February of 2000, and even then we would get emails saying how our store did. And I remember even having a boss at the time, like, we were so happy how we did one time when she was on vacation, and me and the other guy were like bragging about how we did, and we said something like, hey, we got this many reserves, we're really proud. And she looked at us and said, well, what about, and then she showed us this other metric that we didn't do so good on. Now, of course, you could argue bad managing on her part with her being kind of rude about that,
Mm-hmm.
but she said that, and all I could think to myself was, yeah, because you're right, it's not just one piece of the puzzle. So as long as I'd ever been there, they've been tracking it. Then they started, getting more aggressive with what they called it. Then it was business strategies and marketing, and all. So then it became the circle of life a long, long time ago. I might even still have one of the little business cards they gave us that actually has a circle of life on it. They're like, we would expect, as a good manager, keep it in your pocket, keep it in your wallet, show it.
Does that?
I mean, yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean, that company was really good at getting people motivated and believing that there was nothing else better out there for you.
What movie has the jump to conclusions, Matt? Is that Office Space?
Was that How I Met Your Mother? That was one of the board games that Lily's dad made. Jump to conclusions. No, you're right. It was Office Space. Yeah, after he gets hit by the car, the drunk driver, he invents the game when he's at home.
Yeah.
Jump to conclusions. Yeah.
The jump to conclusions, Matt.
Yeah. So anyway,
sorry,
that was
super off topic, but
it was funny.
No, I like this because I mean, I've shopped at GameStop. I never felt like the ones that I shopped at, the employees were really pushy. And when I've gone there, the employees have always been really happy. But that doesn't mean that they're not getting pressure and they're not feeling overwhelmed. And that, to me, is a really bad practice for a large company to perpetuate. It's like when you're trotting and ripping apart your employees because you have to get better numbers, and you're doing that by including and introducing pressure, and you have to sell more. That's just unnecessary stress. I mean, video games are supposed to be fun. And to me, it's like, I don't want an employee to have that look in their eye of, I need to make this sale, or I need to get this pre-order, or I need to sell the subscription to Game Informer, or I'm going to lose my job.
Well, one of my favorite lines from Super Troopers is when the head of the sheriff is like, desperation is a stinky cologne.
Yes.
And it's very true when it comes to sales. And most people are not great salesmen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. You don't need to be a great salesman to sell. But so you have a company like GameStop that they've always kind of ruled by fear when it came to this. So, like, it was always, if you don't hit these numbers, you're going to get fired. It was never, if you hit a certain amount of numbers, you'll get a raise, or if you hit a certain amount of numbers, you'll get a bonus. It was always, if you don't hit a certain amount of numbers, you're going to get fired and you're going to get written up. So they kind of rule that way, and they treat it like it's a commission-based thing. Like, if you don't hit your 20 reservations and 10 subscriptions this month, like, you're going to get a write-up. Well, okay, so what happens if I do hit it? Oh, I get my paycheck because I did my job.
Yeah, nothing.
You get nothing. I was actually told that by a boss one time, that he told me that his thank you was my paycheck.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was literally told that by a boss one time, that because I told him one time that that's what I need as a motivator. Here's a life lesson to anybody who wants to be a manager or be a business owner when you work with employees, or be a team leader of anything, really. It doesn't have to be retail, whatever it is. A good teacher, a good manager, you teach or you manage how they learn, not how you want to teach.
Right.
It's the first thing you'll learn about being a good manager is you don't just teach one way and then expect them all to fall in line and do things your way. It doesn't work. Unless, of course, you only hire people that learn the way you teach, and then you've got this kind of dull, everyone's the same sort of mentality. So you have to adapt to that. So when I was telling him was, I need a district manager who's going to be a little more complimentary of me and let me know, like, even if I'm like, and it sounds really dumb because it's shallow on my part to an extent, but like, I need a district manager who's going to tell me I was doing good, even if I was doing good every single week. Just because I did good every single week doesn't mean that I didn't still need to hear that I was doing really well. And so because I was doing really well every week all the time, he was just like, well, what am I going to do? Compliment you for the 10th time this year about how good you are? I'm like, yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, please.
And I was like, sometimes just a nice thank you is nice. Thank you, Greg, for always having the top store in the district. Thank you for always putting yourself second and your store first. Thank you. And then I kind of brought that up to him, and he's like, well, you know what? I think my thank you is the fact that you get a paycheck every 2 weeks. I'm like, okay. And that, if that wasn't the start of the end, I don't know what was.
Oh my God.
I mean, that was so off-putting to me. And
it
that
really
was,
is.
I mean, how do you demotivate someone more than that? You know, and somebody like me who was, I mean, I was the ultimate company guy.
Mhm.
I was going to stay at that company forever. I was trying to get promoted, work through the system, which obviously you look at the past now, and I'm very glad I didn't. I'm very happy where I am now. Everything's amazing now, but like, what the heck, you know? Like, how do managers, like, that's such a bad management, you know?
Mhm.
It's just terrible management.
Well, and it reminds me of an experience that I had where I was at a meeting, and I'm a doodler, I'm a fidgeter. I can't, I have to be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big yarn craft, so I do a lot of crocheting when I'm at home and everything. But I was doodling during this meeting, and my supervisor pulled me aside afterwards and said, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, doodling all during that meeting. And this was like many, 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 many years ago. So I was very young, and I was like, well, what are you going to do about it, buddy? But I didn't handle it very well, but he also didn't handle it well because he didn't deliver the message in a way that I was actually going to stop and think about what he was saying. He delivered it in a very aggressive sort of manner, and it immediately put me on a defensive where I felt like he didn't understand where I was coming from, because I'm like, I need to do it. I'm still paying attention, but I need to do something with my hands. And it was just a terrible experience between the both of us, and it really kind of soured the relationship that we had from then on. And it's just, I totally agree with what you're saying. I've worked with some really great managers in my work history, and I've worked with some really not so great managers. Thankfully, I've never had a manager that's been completely checked out or hates their life, hates their job. I've always been fortunate to at least work with managers that care about the business and care about what they're doing, but maybe weren't the best at managing people.
Right.
Which is a very important trait to have. And I agree completely with my background in education. Learning every child's learning style, or understanding every child's learning style, is really important, because then you can cater your message to how they're going to best learn something. The three: auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. So do they need to do it themselves? Do they need to hear it, or do they need to see it?
Right.
And it just kind of branches off from there. Because then that leads into, well, if it's auditory, how do you deliver that message? And how is that person going to react if you give that message in a different way? One of the things is, like, if you know that person is a really competitive person, you can turn what you need them to do into a competition.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's all about what that person's strengths are. My motivator is empathy and harmony and wanting everybody to work together. So if I have the opportunity to do that, that motivates me.
Yep. Well, and see, I'm a super competitive person.
And I'm not.
So for me, I actually liked the ranking system at GameStop. It kept me on my toes. It kept me from getting, lax. It kept me going, And then last thing about this story. So the other thing I'll say about management, this is rule number 2 for being a good manager, teacher, or leader in general: happy employees are productive employees.
Oh, most definitely.
If you can find what makes your people happy, and that was the tricky part at GameStop, because corporate policy made it nigh impossible to enjoy your job there, mostly because, like, they don't pay very well, so you don't have a financial motivator. There's a high stress, and so how do you get those people? So you get people to follow you. So nobody was working at my store. No one was working hard to make GameStop extra money. They were working hard for me. I put my time in. I worked hard so that they would follow me and respect me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it really came down to. So which oftentimes a good manager has to do that. You have to find a way to relate to your team. And if it's by being down, it's being on the battlefield with them, or if it's, again, it depends on their styles, but you find different ways. But anyway, that was, we just want to touch back on that story because I just find it very impressive that, this article written on the internet was able to sway $1 billion company. I think
Most
it's pretty
definitely. Great. And one thing I do want to mention before we kind of put a little capstone on it, if anybody's interested in finding out what motivates them, there is actually a really great book out there by Tim Rath, I think? Rath?
Tom?
Tom. Did I say Tim?
Yeah.
Tom Rath, Rath. That's called Strengths Finder. And what it is, I would say before you even read the book, there's a code in every new purchase of the book. And that code brings you to a website. Well, obviously you have to go to a computer and type in the website. But you get a code to take this test. And it's would you rather do this or do this? And you plot, how likely you would be. Are you extremely likely to lean this way or extremely likely to lean the other way, or are you somewhere in the middle? And what you end up getting is a list of your strengths. And what your strengths, your top 5, are what motivates you, what can become eventually a weakness. To give you an example of how that could happen, one of my top strengths is input. I love to learn and to learn more about certain things that I don't know. How that can be a weakness is that it becomes obsessive. If I don't know something, I have to look it up.
Okay.
So you see how it can tip in one way or another. But that's a really good motivator for me, because if I don't know something or somebody asks me to research a subject, I'm all over that, because that's all I want to do is learn more about this topic and become the expert.
And what we all know is...
I'm a nerd.
Well, obviously we know that. But knowing is half the battle.
Oh.
You just have to know.
But I really do recommend it. Strengths Finder from Gallup. Tom Rath does this book. It's like $16, but definitely take the quiz first and then learn all about your strengths after. Because I feel like if you read what their strengths are, you may weight different questions differently because
Sure.
I want this to be my strength.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Take the quiz first and then read about what that means and how that motivates you and how it can
Don't cheat.
become.
Although maybe if you do cheat, maybe there's a special chapter in the back that says like cheat finder. Like, hey, we know you didn't answer the questions properly, so you're this kind of person. And it gives you a whole page description of what a piece of crap you are.
I want you to take this because I think it'd be really interesting to see what
I'll take that test later. Bookmark that. I'll take that test later. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I like websites that tell me how much smarter I am than the average person. Because
Or did you ever take like those IQ tests where they're like, answer all these 10 questions and it's like, look at this, my IQ is 150.
No, I've never done that actually.
You haven't? Oh.
I probably should.
All right. I want to talk about the story that I wanted to talk about.
This is 100% your story.
This is 100% me.
I was like, no. And then you kicked me and pushed me down on the ground.
I did. I took your milk money.
You took my milk money, and then you sat on me and said, I'm not getting up until we do this story. Is basically what happened.
Yep, that's exactly.
That happens a lot.
That happens. We wish we got it on video, but we didn't. All right. A Twitch streamer by the name of Peter Delgado Kuselchek. Okay, he is
That's quite the diverse.
Yes. Well,
name.
he's half Polish, I think, and half Mexican.
Okay.
So he's Polexican.
Huh.
I just made that part up. He's in his late 20s. And his goal over the last 3 years is to stream and beat all 714 original Nintendo
I'm
games.
curious where he's getting that number from. Is that number?
Well, it says 679 games that were released in North
okay.
America and 35 PAL exclusive games.
Okay.
So for the games that didn't have a strict win condition, he just played it till it kept looping, and he couldn't get any farther. But he even went as far as to spend, I think, over 90 hours playing Miracle Piano Teaching System.
So it's not even a game.
No, but it
teaches you how to play piano.
And I mean, he has this probably it's like almost a 20-minute video of the best of him learning this and going through all of the things. So I don't really know how much he actually, I actually do know he spent 90 plus hours learning this.
Wouldn't it be awesome if he actually learned how to play piano?
He says that he pretty much did. He was able to teach himself how to play at least enough to beat the game, which has 37 lessons in it.
Okay.
Or 36 or 37 lessons in it. And I watched part of it, and I mean, it gets pretty sophisticated as you go on, and without ever playing piano, it seems doable. And I asked you if you'd ever gotten him in the store. But as of right now, while we're recording
at 1 p.m.
He is at World 8. He's currently fighting. That's Bowser.
It's Bowser. Is he about to finish?
He
He's about
might
to finish
be.
Mario 3.
This is so fun. And he's been playing Mario 3 for an hour and 43 minutes currently. Oh, there he is. He did it.
He just did it.
He just did it.
He just, like, literally, as we didn't plan that at all. Like,
No.
Like, we had the stream on the background, and we thought we'd check it. So he literally just,
So total time spent. Aw, he looks really happy. 3,435 hours, 12 minutes, and 24 seconds. Aw, there's Peach. I've never seen the end of this game.
Oh. That's right, because we were playing this. Remember we had our Mario 3 date?
Yes.
And we were playing this, and then we got to the stupid water level with the big fish, and the game just beat the crap out of us. Like, it was really sad. Like, we were doing really good. We had a whole bunch of live setup. We're like, man, this game's kind of easy, you know?
Yeah, we're like,
adults.
we're totally can do
And then
it.
that freaking water level.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that was a pretty tough one. That's amazing. He spent the last 3 years doing this, streaming it on Twitch. We just tuned in.
That literally worked out perfectly. That was awesome.
But yes, his Twitch name is the Mexican Runner, and he wanted to beat all 714, and he just did it within the last minute or so.
So he has 12,000. He has 13,000 people watching him right now.
Right now, and he has
that's total views.
4.8 million
That's
total
great.
views.
Good
But
on
let's
him,
see.
man.
How do I find out how many people subscribe to him? I thought
Can you if you haven't logged in?
I could on that other one, a different one.
I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, that's really cool. It was a neat thing.
It was really neat, and I found it really crazy, and it was almost based on somebody's sarcastic comment to say, well, why don't you beat all the games? And he's like, well, maybe I will. And it never crossed his mind to give up. You know, he almost had a little bit of an obsession about it. He wanted to do it. I mean, and after spending 91 hours playing Magic Piano Teacher, what is it called? Miracle Piano Teaching System, you know, he was around, you know, playing Game 50, started to realize that the project could take years, but looks like it only took him 3 years to beat every NES game. So
That's
well
great.
done, Peter.
Well
That's
done.
awesome.
And part of the reason this story came up, like, this is a really great story, and unfortunately, like, we don't like to leave on negative notes typically, but there was some really rough news in the video game world this week, and we wanted to touch on it. And it kind of came along with that story a little bit, just as far as streaming and how important it is, and like to people, and how it is to grow and to be a streamer and to do it for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And on the I believe it was the 23rd of February, the story started picking up that there was a streamer during a 24-hour stream. He passed away. Like, he actually died in the middle of a stream. And now he didn't die on camera or anything crazy like that. This isn't about shock value.
No.
But he basically got up for a smoke break after like hour 22, about 3 o'clock in the morning, and then just never came back. And so people thought he fell asleep or that, you know, something happened. And then later, when one of his when one of the admins on his page tried to message him, it was actually a police officer messaged him back,
right,
and said, hey, we're investigating the death of this person. And so I saw that story and I was like, wow, I mean, that's really sad, obviously. And you know, you hope that his family's doing well. He was a father of 3, I think it said.
He was 35 and a father of 3.
He was 35. And so you look at that and you go, I mean, what a loss. I mean, you never want to see anybody go. You never want to see a Family Guy go. And it's awful. And you think, well, that's one of those really weird, rare occurrences of just, you know, maybe it was a heart attack, whatever it ended up.
Mm-hmm.
And then all these articles start popping up in the days that follow about other people. One of them is a guy, do you have that one up? The guy who basically said that, yeah, right there. So, like, he says that basically trying to make it as a Twitch streamer almost killed him.
Right.
And this is another story. And so this guy, and then what's funny though is we're listening to this story, reading through this, and he tells a story of somebody else he knew that died last year.
Right. So this was in April 2016.
So last April.
And it was the
Dalsarius 82.
Right. Found dead on the floor by his wife. He was a streamer. This is from a Kotaku article from Friday. He was a streamer who always rated me when I started in the early morning. This hit home. He was in his 30s. I was in my 40s.
Yeah, so the guy who says he almost died is in his 40s, and this guy he played with and knew a lot, was in his 30s when he died.
Right.
So now we're looking at this, we're saying, okay, hold on. Now, obviously, sometimes when a story comes out, a lot of little stories come out or are brought to light by a bigger story kind of catching on. But the more they keep coming out, you have to keep saying, like, what's going on, And so we decided to look into it a little bit more. And it's tough because, like, I don't think we ever planned to do this for a living. Like, we wanted to do this, and I like to stream occasionally. I think it's really fun, and I do like an audience, and I wish I had a big audience of streaming because I think I'm entertaining, and I think people would watch me. But I have so many other things going on and everything like that. And it's hard to do. It's hard to find a schedule. And then it's hard to play games for other people's enjoyment when you just want to play them for your own enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
And, but, so I see some of these things and I start to think, well, they're basically trying to be the best they can be at their job. Because a lot of them look at it like this is their 100% job. And while I don't want to say it's silly. I just think that it's a tough thing to do. Like people glamorize it. Like, man, wouldn't it be great to play games all day and get paid? Well, not necessarily if you have to basically be a reality star is what you are. That's what you're getting paid to do. You're not getting paid just to play games. Playing games is just how you connect with the people that want to watch you.
I think it's also hard to know when to stop. You mentioned that sometimes people do view this as their full-time job, but on the flip side, some people actually play in addition to working a day job. So they end up streaming most of the night. And how much of a balance is that? Because now you don't have a work-life balance, you have a work balance.
Right.
That for a job that you can't stop doing, you have to stream on a schedule. Otherwise, you're not going to get your followers to follow you because they're going to say, okay, well, your page says you stream Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I come here every Tuesday and Thursday, and you're not doing anything.
Right.
So unsub.
A lot of the people that watch Twitch streamers and stuff like that, they have shorter attention spans. So yeah, if you have a schedule and you don't keep it, they're not going to show up for your schedules if they think you don't keep it. Although to be fair, that's just like me having hours at my store. Like if I say I'm open every day 10 to 8, and then you come on a day at noon and I'm just closed and there's no note, that's funny. When you say that, then people go, well, I don't know if I can go there because he may not be open. He wasn't last time,
Right.
Now I think it's a little bit easier just to quickly check and see if someone's Twitch streaming. It's not like you're driving to a physical location to watch me stream, but unlike a store. But I look at it like if they want to be a job and they want to be the best at their job, right? So say the same thing works for somebody who works on commissions. I made this earlier when we were chatting about this analogy. So say it's like a door-to-door vacuum salesman. The more vacuums he sells, the more money he makes. So he works his butt off. He works 14, 15-hour days. He goes to more houses than anybody. He walks around. He goes door to door, and he gets more money than everybody else. He'll be a better salesman than the guy who only goes to a couple houses a day and maybe skips out a couple days a week. He's gonna make more money. He'll be a better salesman.
Right.
I think it applies perfectly to what we're talking about here. However, what's the difference then, you say? So you look at it and you go, okay, well, what's the big difference then between someone like that working himself to the bone and a streamer working himself to the bone? And I guess what I come to is the quality of life, I guess. So these streamers are typically not moving for 5, 6, 7 to 10 hours at a shot, maybe getting up to use the bathroom. But even here, one of the articles, the guy that says he almost died, he says that half the time he wouldn't take a bathroom break because if he left, he'd lose at least a couple streamers just because he was AFK for 5 minutes.
And that to me is really dangerous too, because you run the risk of a whole multitude of health problems. I mean, not just, gastrointestinally, but even like you can get bladder infections, you can get kidney infections. I mean, those are really dangerous things that will send you to the hospital.
Yeah. And you need sleep.
Right.
You need sleep. And And a lot of these people are sleep deprived. I mean, he was doing a 24-hour stream, which don't get me wrong, that's not bad every now and then to do.
And the article that we were talking about before, the one who unfortunately passed away, he was doing a fundraiser for March of Dimes, or
I don't remember what the charity was.
Oh, it was no, Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Make-A-Wish Foundation.
So I mean, it's not like they're just for the most part, a lot of them are doing it these long, extended playing sessions for a reason.
Yeah.
But then you have the ones that just stream for 8 hours a day just cause.
And again they want to make their money doing it, and that's fine. But now imagine that. So they're not getting enough sleep. They're probably eating things that are very fast to make, or they're getting fast food or delivery because they don't want it to leave, right?
Super processed.
Or super processed, where they can just pop it in the microwave, nuke something, and then eat it. These people that are streaming this often, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're not exercising. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're playing video games or if you're working, sitting at a desk all day, writing code. If you're doing those same bad habits, it's just as bad for you, whatever you're doing.
Well, and I remember, a while ago when I was eating a lot of processed food, I was drinking a lot of alcohol. Not in excess where I was, hammered, but just it was a part of my lifestyle more so than it is now. Like now I don't drink nearly as much as I used to, but I just felt gross all the time. Just felt kind of like my skin was bad, and I just felt like it was just like it just grody. That's the perfect example.
Nice.
I can't admit, like if I eat something like super processed, like one night, I feel kind of gross the next day, but then I eat something really good or really like healthy or what I normally eat.
Yeah.
And I feel better. I couldn't imagine feeling that way all the time.
Yeah. Well, and what's one of the rules I have when we go to bed? I never look at my phone once the lights are off.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's a night mode, and you can put that on so you don't get that crazy white and blue light or the white light that keeps you awake, right? I don't do it because it keeps me awake, and it kind of burns my eyes out. And so once I'm in bed, so I want to make it very clear, though, that we're not at all condemning them for their lifestyles, and we're not saying what they're doing is wrong. But I think when we start to look at this stuff, people need to take better care of themselves, and I think that's a problem in this country. Like, a lot of people may or may not know this that listen to this. I lost a lot of weight. I've lost over 100 pounds from when I started doing my weight loss. I unfortunately gained a little bit back, but I lost not as much as but I lost a lot of weight, and that was probably, to be fair, the most difficult thing I've ever done in my whole life. It was way harder than starting my own business. It was way harder than stealing Jen's heart. That was easy, actually. I'm so charming. So like it was really difficult because we live in a society that it's easier and faster and more convenient to not be healthy.
Right.
And so again, I'm not preaching on these guys to be healthier. They should want to be on their own. But when you put yourself, part of the reason I was able to lose my weight was because I built a regiment. Essentially, I built a routine, and if I didn't follow that routine perfectly, I wasn't losing any weight. So once you get into and that a good routine is harder to do than a bad routine, and it's really easy to wake up and go to the fridge and go, man, I can grab a filtered water, or I got a can of soda right here, and you pop it open. Mm-hmm. As silly as it sounds, that's easier than pouring a glass of water.
Well, that's like we were on our way to the grocery store this morning. We're like, well, we could just go to the drive-thru. Yeah,
we were gonna go. We were originally planning to go to the grocery store to buy stuff to make breakfast, to make a nice breakfast
like a hash
scramble.
Yeah, like scramble.
And then we're like, well, we could just go to McDonald's. And we legitimately thought about it. And then thankfully I had just that moment of strength for just the 1 second to pass the McDonald's, and I was like, no, let's cook breakfast. We haven't cooked breakfast
in a
while.
Quite honestly, that was the best idea because
so much better.
That breakfast was the bomb.
Yeah. We're pretty good cooks.
We are, and our breakfast is on point.
Yeah. We just did regular this morning. We didn't do like we normally do breakfast quesadillas. But this morning we just did a scramble because we're keeping it chill. But anyway, so this is obviously a really serious thing, and I worry about people that I actually respect to an extent people who are really dedicated to their craft. People who want to make it big in this realize they have to put the time in, they have to put the work in. That's never going to change. That is our society. If you want to be the best, you have to put the time in. But at what cost, and what is it worth to be that guy? Is it worth your health? Is it worth your life? Clearly not, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then unfortunately, as more and more studies come out, like I don't know, it's hard to believe a lot of stuff. I'm not trying to just throw out fake surveys and stuff. But there's a lot of people out there or there's a lot of studies out there that talk about like massive use of social media and playing on phones and social media and games leads to higher anxiety and more depression.
Well, right, because it's the whole, like, I think social media is a great tool, but it can't be your lifestyle because there's that whole, you're comparing yourself to everybody else. I actually watched a really great video. I might be able to find it at some point and I'll show it to you, but this guy talked about how what you see on social media is not real life because think about think about a couple that you know that you're really close to and you see the good and the bad and their interactions on a daily basis and then compare what you see in real life versus what you see on social media, which is what they choose to share, like, oh, all the happy cute selfies and the kissy kissy and whatever, and that's what they choose to show the rest of the world and how skewed that information is. So how can you have a healthy relationship in today's world when you think that that's what you see on social media is what a relationship is? You don't see the problems and the nitty gritty and the day-to-day trials that it comes with being in a relationship.
Yeah.
So compromising and working together and collaboration, you don't see that. You don't see the conversations that they have about really serious topics. You see the good. So what do you think a relationship is going to be if you don't see everything else? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, and younger people, a lot of studies are coming out saying younger people are more depressed. I mean, we have to get real with the things we say. And again, as always, I'm not going super political with this stuff, but we have to understand that right now it's a different time we're living in than when I was growing up. When I was growing up, there seemed to be less of a
When
like there
we
seemed
were growing up.
when we were growing up. There seemed to be less of a like you didn't hear everybody complaining about crappy financial times. You didn't hear everybody walking around with no money in their pocket. You didn't hear all that stuff now. And as an adult, you hear that a lot. So there's a lot of other factors in society right now. We're on this cusp of people being at the end of their wits, and that's why we're seeing change in the political scene because people, albeit wherever they want to direct their anger, whether you think it's the right way or not, they're angry, and how do they express themselves, and how do they, get what they want? And right now, there's just not a lot of compromise when it comes to what people are getting, I guess. And so people are looking back. The point of me saying that is people are looking back to a happier time. There's younger kids, I think, growing up that are anxious and depressed in school at 10, 12, 13 years old.
Right.
Which I honestly don't think I could ever relate to when I was that age. I didn't have classmates going through that. And I know I grew up in kind of a small podunk town, but I'm saying like let's say 20, 23 years ago, 24 years ago, I wasn't seeing 12, 13, and 14-year-old students killing themselves.
No, but kids were worried about stuff that they didn't understand, such as, during the 80s, kids were worried about nuclear war, like the Cold War and nuclear war, and worried about,
Which I guess I never was. I don't know. Like I grew up and I asked my mom about that a couple years ago. I was like, did you guys like was that a thing? Like were you guys every night just being like, man, I'm worried that something's gonna happen? She kind of said no. They didn't feel like it was like that.
Well,
But
and I think that that's where the whole social media aspect comes in because, I mean, how many times have we gone to Facebook and seen the same article that we had already seen 2 or 3 months ago, and it's just been recycled through the
yeah,
Facebook feed or whatever. And imagine if every article gives you a shot of anxiety or a jolt of adrenaline, it becomes exhausting to go on Facebook. And I've really cut back because I don't want to continually compare myself. I do feel after being on Facebook for 20 minutes or so, I feel more. I don't feel good. I feel like, oh, that
yeah.
person does this, and oh, that person's at this point in their life, and
Especially right now. I mean, most of the things you read are just straight garbage. It's people complaining, and there's like it's always whiners or complainers or political whining or what, and it's all garbage. It's all negativity, and you need less negativity in your life. Like I there's some unavoidable negativity that you're never gonna be able to get rid of it completely. So why would you go looking for it when
True.
you're already gonna have plenty that you can't dodge anyway? And it's just one of those things. But anyway, not getting on a big social commentary and getting back to the point we were making was just, people need to take care of themselves. And, anybody out there who is a streamer, who wants to be a streamer, who wants to be famous, I guess just really think about what it's worth. It's not worth your life. It's not worth your health. And unfortunately, especially at a younger age, like 35 or 40, you're going to be around for a while. That's the plan. So you need to take care of yourself now. I'm
Right.
glad I did my weight loss when I did, but I wish I had done it 10 years earlier.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what my end of life is going to be like knowing that I lost that 10 years. I don't know. And so, and that was, and again, though, that was also high stress, working a lot. So it was high stress, bad habits, eating, overweight, all that sort of stuff. Now I eat a lot better. I've lost that weight, and I sleep much better,
Mhm.
as you know. I
Yeah.
sleep very well, actually. I sleep very well.
What
I
are
wish
people going to take away from that?
I just wish people. I guess what I'm just trying to tell people is, it's so important. Like, figure out what you need to do to sleep well, because getting a good night's sleep changes everything. It really does. I'm not going to preach
No,
about getting
okay.
good sleep. But I'm just
I
saying.
thought you were like making some tongue-in-cheek reference to like me being a good snuggler.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that helps.
Nice
course.
save, Greg.
Oh, I mean, of course, that's what I meant. But no, I mean, but that's but please take care of yourselves, and know that maybe sometimes we're perpetuating the cycle too. Like, if you're the type of person who goes on someone's Twitch channel, and when they go up to use the bathroom, you're like, oh, this is so boring, and you leave. Maybe just kind of
Uh-huh.
rethink about what you're doing, and the type of person the type of consumer you want to be. I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I've decided that if I ever decide to do a Twitch streaming channel, that I'm going to bring up the treadmill and I will stream while walking on the treadmill.
There you go. Boom. Get the elliptical up here, and just elliptical.
Not the that's too hard to one of these doing this. Okay. That's this, not this.
That's inappropriate. You're lucky this is just an audio podcast. Jeez.
But I think I would do that. Nobody steal that. Patent pending, trademark, copyright.
I thought about, when I started to do my weight loss, I thought about streaming it all. I thought about every night doing
wow.
like 2 hours of fitness gaming.
I
So like
that.
everybody could like watch me, and then I realized I look disgusting, and I don't want to.
Stop
But
it.
I'm serious. Back then, though, I didn't like how I looked, and I don't know why anybody would have wanted to look at me. Obviously, they would have looked at me in like a year.
Me.
You're sweet, babe. You're sweet.
Aww.
But honestly, like,
It's the truth.
that's how I felt.
Sure.
So it wasn't that was the reality. That was my perception of the situation. And it was, it was whatever. But anyway, it's just, take care of yourselves, people. And
we like you. We want you to stay.
Yeah, we want everyone to be happy and to have a good quality life. So that's our show.
That's it.
I hope we didn't get too preachy at the end.
Just a little.
But we care about everybody, and I honestly believe the world's a better place if we all get there together.
And you're here.
Yeah. Everybody's here.
Everybody.
So that's our show. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at GameTradeGreg.
You can follow me on Twitter at GameTalkGen.
And you can always email us, or I should say just Facebook message us at Game Talk Radio on Facebook or Game Trade on Facebook. You can message us questions. We'll happily read them. No one ever does, so we don't ever read them.
Nobody ever wants to email me.
No one ever wants to email you.
Nobody wants to tweet me.
But that's okay. You tweeted about a Shiba Inu.
Hi, Shiba!
Shiba. Did you see my reply?
No.
Oh, well, you can read that later. But everyone, we appreciate you as listening as always, and everyone have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.